What's up, and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars, where today we're bringing it back to our Phantasm movie marathon with the second film in the series, released 9 years after the first. It's Phantasm 2. Now, if you saw my review for the first film, you know that my main concern about it was that it was kind of confusing and never really offered the viewer many answers as to most of their WH questions. Why is this happening? Who is this guy? For what purpose does this serve? And most importantly, the way it ended made me question how a sequel even happened, because, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Phantasm 1, the whole thing was a dream. I mean, that was the idea anyway, and how do you follow up with that? Guess we'll find out. Let's see if my empirical criticism can be lifted this time around, and let's get cracking. This review is brought to you by the word of the day, empirical, originating in or based on an observation or experience. Phantasm 2 brings Mike and Reg back into the fold 9 years after the events of the first, when Mike is released from an insane asylum and vows to find and kill the tall man before he destroys the life of a young woman who is experiencing similar things as he did when he was younger. So off he and Reg go across the country like a couple of Winchesters to stop this monster for good. It's funny, I referenced the Winchesters because I couldn't stop to think about Sam and Dean, because these guys drive across the country in a black car that looks eerily similar to the Impala in Supernatural, and it contains a number of custom-built weapons in the trunk, and obviously they're hunting a supernatural creature. It came out 17 years before Supernatural, but whatever. Anyways, the biggest thing that I wondered about this film was how it was going to make any sense given how the last film ended. And I can tell you that it doesn't really answer that question at all. I mean, it's going off of the assumption that, yeah, all of Phantasm was a dream, but it wasn't at the same time. The only problem with that is you really don't know what's real and what isn't. I mean, apparently his brother, who played a prominent role in the first film, died years before, and the tall man was a figment of Mike's imagination as a kind of a form to deal with and maybe place blame on something for his grief. That's an important message, honestly, for like grief and mentality. But the continuation of the series basically made the assumption that the tall man does indeed exist, and it fails to explain what that means for Mike's brother. You can easily look at this entire film as another figment of Mike's imagination playing out in his head while he's in an asylum if you want, but I try to stay away from theories since that'll just get me into trouble. So I had wondered if this would just answer those questions or just present me with more questions. And I gotta say, it kind of just gave me more questions. Not many, mind you, the film mostly plays out very similarly to the first film, but there were extra elements in this one as well. For instance, those dwarves that follow the guy around in the first film are still here too, but now there's another group of slave workers in the crematorium, and they just seem to be normal people, and I don't know where they came from, or why they're just so happy to be working for the tall man. What's the story there? I don't know. I guess I'll just pile it on top of all the other questions that I have. Unfortunately, from a visuals perspective, I can't say that this film matched the first in unnerving imagery or sequences. They had some fun old school gore moments, but that's to be expected. There weren't many surprises in this film that you couldn't fully see coming, and that's where the first comes out on top. But even though the first film is better as a general rule, I kind of say it's not by much. These two films are pretty similar in how they're made, how the atmosphere feels like, the unrelenting mysteries surrounding literally everything in the film, and the relationships that everybody has mostly feels identical. But there's a lot left to be desired. For a movie that took 9 years for there to be a sequel, I'm actually surprised it didn't attempt to create more mythology for the tall man yet. There's a lot of possibilities for a movie like this, and I hope they start to approach them in the other sequels. If they don't, I'll be pretty disappointed, because at that point, you're just talking about unmet potential. Let's take a look at the final score for a second. From an unbiased vantage point, this film wasn't as good as the first. Where the first had a deeper look at mentality and grief, had a better production design with the marble interior of the funeral home, and had some spooky imagery, the second film felt a lot more standard and not as unique. So that's why my unbiased score is at 58%, but my biased score is still a bit higher at 66% because it is arguably a fun film that was bold enough to attempt to continue a story that didn't need continuation. But if you like the first film, you'll likely enjoy the second. When we combine the two scores together, we get a final score of 62%, 62 out of 100 possible stars, granting Phantasm 2 with a letter grade of D. For a quick reminder, the first film got 66%, only a 4% difference. For a 9-year hiatus, that's not bad at all. I like to hear your guys' thoughts on Phantasm 2 in the comments down below. If you've seen it, what do you think about it? And what do you remember the most about it when you think about the second film? Let me know in the comments down below, and as for YouTube, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button if you like this review, because there's more like it coming out. Hit the thumbs up button, because that always helps out my channel. And don't forget about the little bell icon, because that'll help notify you when I come out with my next review. And until then, peace out!